All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I've got, let's start out with a strongman story here. So the 2021 World's Strongest Man apparently is right around the corner, getting a major change in location this year. It was just announced that the 2021 World's Strongest Man will be happening in Sacramento, California. The new dates for the contest are revealed to be in June of this year. The Dorian Yates physique update at almost 60 years old. Dorian Yates is currently 58 years old right now. Six-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates looks a lot different than he looked back in his golden age of bodybuilding in the 90s. But still, for a retired bodybuilder approaching the age of 60, he still maintains a pretty impressive physique. I believe he said in a recent interview now he maintains a body weight close to 200 pounds. But that's a far cry from back in his glory days in bodybuilding. His stage weight was around 270, and in the off-season, he got as big as 300-plus pounds, 300, 310. So he's probably about 100 pounds lighter from his peak, biggest physique that he ever had. But it's good to see that Dorian Yates at the age of 60, well, 58 to be exact, is still looking healthy. He's still looking muscular. And the fact that he's still alive, I think, is also a pretty impressive accomplishment in and of itself, considering the fact that Dorian Yates was the harbinger of the Mass Monster era. So shout out to Dorian Yates. Now, next up in the news, a physique update from none other than Roelly Winklaar. So Roelly Winklaar is a guy that we all wanted to see compete at the 2020 Mr. Olympia. And because of the virus, he was not able to do so. So it kind of put his competition plans on hold. Now, he posted this physique update, this training update, where, of course, you can see the trademark massive arms of Roelly Winklaar. And one thing that we're looking for this year in 2021 is hopefully Roelly will get to the Olympia. Now, to do so, Roelly will need to qualify for the Olympia again. Right now, Roelly Winklaar is currently not qualified for this year's Mr. Olympia in 2021. If you go over to the Mr. Olympia website and you look at the current qualified competitors list, you've got James Hollingshead, Regan Grimes, Mamdoa Big, Rami Elsbaye, Brandon Curry, Phil Heath, Hadi Chupin, and William Bonac in the top three. In points, Vlad, let me zoom in on this. I can barely read that name. Vlad Sukarucho, Theo Laguarrier, Mohamed El Aman. So, obviously, among those names is not Roelly Winklaar. So, Roelly's going to have to compete sometime between now and, again, they still haven't announced when the Olympia is happening, whether it's going to happen in September again, be pushed back to December like it was last year. We really don't know. But what we do know is, if Roelly is planning on competing in the Olympia again, which I'm assuming he is, we're pretty used to seeing Roelly at every Olympia over the past few years. He rarely ever misses one. So if he is going to compete in 2021, I'm assuming the goal would be to get to the Olympia again. So he's going to have to compete prior to that. So that is what I'm looking for in 2021, is hopefully in the near future we see an announcement from Roelly saying I'm X amount of weeks out from X show. Now, usually we see Roelly at either the Arnold or the Olympia, and since the dates for neither of those have been announced, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Roelly compete at a show like the New York Pro coming up in May, at the Indy Pro coming up in May, and I wouldn't be surprised if he made a last-minute announcement for one of those shows to snag that early qualification for this year's Mr. Olympia, even though it's not really that early because it's all the way in May. You know, that's 5 months into the year. So as we see more and more of these physique updates and training videos from Roelly, just keep that in the back of your mind. He still needs to qualify for this year's Olympia. So if you see Roelly start looking really lean and really good, and if you start seeing some magic mirror updates, I think that might mean a new competition for Roelly's on the horizon in the very near future. Come on. Now, speaking of bodybuilders that are already qualified for this year's Mr. Olympia, let's talk about a couple because we got some physique updates from a few of them. James Hollingshead is on that qualified competitors list, and on the Redcon1 Instagram page, we got two physique updates from James, a front double bicep and a back double bicep pose at what I believe James said was close to 300 pounds body weight. Now, James really impressed a lot of people at the British Grand Prix and at the Europa show, the Europa in Alicante, Spain. He really turned a lot of heads at these shows. He made a lot of improvements. He brought a lot of size to the stage and brought some pretty good conditioning along with that. So James is certainly one guy that I'm looking forward to seeing compete in the 2021 season. And I don't think we're going to have to see him. I don't think we're going to see him compete in any shows prior to the Olympia. I think his main goal at this point is focusing exclusively on that Olympia appearance in 2021. Again, whenever that Olympia is going to happen, we still don't really know. Now, another name that you see on that qualified competitors list is your third place finisher at last year's Mr. Olympia, I should say, 2020, Phil Heath. Now, we rarely ever get physique updates from Phil Heath in the offseason or outside of Olympia season, really. And a lot of you guys were DMing me these stories of Phil Heath that he posted today. He was out getting some therapy done in Cleveland, actually, I believe it was. I live pretty close to Cleveland. So he was out there getting some work done, some recovery work, and a lot of you guys were sending me these stories saying two things. A, you were saying Phil Heath's waist looks way smaller. And B, you were saying that Phil Heath overall looks a bit downsized in these updates that were posted on his story. Now, I agree with you guys. He does look a bit smaller, and his waist does look a bit smaller, but I don't think it's really a huge point of discussion. I think really it's because he's laying on his back, and just the way he's breathing is going to make his waist look smaller. We all have laid on our backs, sucked in our stomachs, and flattened out our waist pretty good. I think we've all been in that position, so that wasn't too surprising. And then the fact that he looks a little bit downsized is not too surprising to me as well. I mean, he came off the Olympia in December. I would assume he's going to take a break after that Olympia placing and figure out what he wants to do next as far as his bodybuilding career is concerned. Will he compete at the Olympia again? What will his next show be? I mean, at this point, we really don't know. We all thought that we were going to see Phil Heath compete at the Athleticon Icon World Classic IFBB Pro Bodybuilding show last year in 2020. Obviously, with everything that happened in 2020, that show got canceled and got postponed to next year. But right now, I think it's pretty safe to say we don't know if or when Athleticon is going to happen, the Arnold Classic Ohio is going to happen, the Olympia. We don't know the dates of any of these shows, basically. And if we don't know, that means Phil probably doesn't know. So I'm assuming Phil is taking some time off to just think about what he wants to do next, because really he can't schedule anything because we really don't know when the next show is even going to be. If he wanted to do the Arnold Classic, if he wanted to do a show besides the Olympia, I would assume a lot of bodybuilders are taking this time off. There's no shows to do between now and May. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of guys that you don't see posting anything that are pro bodybuilders because they're taking all this time off. So I don't think it's really surprising, A, that his waist looks small, or B, that he looks downsized. I think Phil's taking a break, and I think he probably deserves one. Now, will we see Phil Heath compete again? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. I mean, you got to consider all the factors of Phil coming off that third place finish. Prior to that, he hadn't placed outside of the top 2 for 10 years. He's over 40 now. So you got to weigh, what does Phil have to gain versus what does Phil have to lose when you consider whether or not he's going to do another show. And hell, another consideration is, can he win the Olympia again? Now, the final story that I have for you guys today is another physique update from Andrew Jack, the training partner of Larry Wheels. Very impressive physique Andrew has, and it really is amazing to me that he's never done any bodybuilding show of any kind. He posted this physique update where, again, he looks absolutely insane, but in the caption of that post, he says this is his current shape at just a few weeks out. So we are going to be seeing Andrew compete in the very near future. I don't think he's specified yet publicly what that show's going to be, where that show's going to be, etc. So I don't know where or when we're going to see him, but based on what we've seen from him so far, the fact that he's a couple weeks out, he looks really impressive to me. So I guess only time will tell. I believe his game plan is still to compete in the classic physique category as an amateur, and I think he's going to do insanely well. I mean, he's going to be competing in an amateur show, so like I've said before, the conversation of how he will do as a pro is something we need to hold off on. But as an amateur, I think Andrew is going to come in and seriously hurt some feelings. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did, in fact, enjoy it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. Please check out the Nick Strength and Pokemon channel. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.